Welcome to today's explainer. Look, I'm stepping into the shoes of a TMQ consultant today, and I'm speaking directly to you, our senior manufacturing plant leadership. As someone who actually spent years managing the shop floor, I'm here to blow the whistle on what is really happening out there on your plant floor every single day. For years, we've been running these bleeding, vintage operations, kind of just accepting massive inefficiencies as the normal cost of doing business. But I'm going to show you how we can go from a state of constant, exhausting futility to absolute victory. We are going to radically reset how we operate, and the best part? We're going to do it using the exact tools and the exact people we already have in the building.
Here is the hard truth we've been hiding from leadership, and honestly, sometimes hiding from ourselves. It's exactly what the legendary Dr. W. Edwards Deming warned us about decades ago. He stated that 94% of all problems are systemic, yet what do we actually do? When a machine goes down or a quota gets missed, we just keep futilely blaming the operators. We try to retrain people who literally already know how to do their jobs instead of fixing the broken processes they're forced to navigate. Think about it. If 94% of our failures are rooted in the system itself, then throwing more pressure at our people isn't just ineffective, it is practically sabotage.
And this systemic failure brilliantly illustrates what we call the one-half rule. Right now, if you look at your facility, half of your plant's efforts are essentially what we call bust work. This is unmeasured, non-value-added busy work that looks a lot like productivity, but it actually underperforms and drags down the top half of our real production. Literally, half of your setup times are waste, half of your maintenance is just unmeasured rework. Until we expose and eliminate this bottom 50%, your true top-tier output is anchored to the floor by an invisible weight.
We are hemorrhaging cash, and it's because of a toxic legacy culture that tells us to just spread the stress. You know the exact mindset I'm talking about. When we fall behind, we just ask everyone to work a little harder, run the machines a little faster, and somehow absorb the chaos. But the only way to achieve exponential returns, especially if we aren't dumping millions into new capital equipment, is to completely pivot our culture to support the system, or STS. Every role, every task, and every resource has to be aligned to relieve systemic strain, not just absorb it. We need the system to carry the weight, not the people.
So, how do we actually support the system? Well, we have to look at the skeletal frame of our production, the 5 M's of manufacturing: manpower, machines, maintenance, materials, and methods. Now, in a highly functional plant, these 5 forces work in perfect concert. But right now on your floor, they're colliding with each other instead of cooperating. We treat them as totally isolated silos. Maintenance does their thing, materials does theirs, and we just kind of cross our fingers and hope it all comes together on the line. And that lack of unity? That is exactly where your profit margins are bleeding out.
The crucial takeaway here is that these are not isolated silos. Not at all. A redundancy or a misfeed in your kitted materials doesn't just stay a materials problem, it instantly destroys the setup integrity of your machines down the line. If your method is undocumented, well, your manpower is forced to guess. If you ignore the interdependency of these 5 M's, you simply inherit their inefficiency. You absolutely cannot solve a constraint in the machine department if you are totally ignoring the upstream material feed that's actually causing the jam in the first place.
This interconnected nervous system of the 5 M's is what we call the interset. Think of it almost like the internet for your plant floor. It's a living, self-perpetuating network that connects all your procedural and mechanical setups. When we ignore this interdependence, our disjointed, isolated continuous improvement programs just create a really dangerous loop of futility. I mean, improving one machine while ignoring its feeder setup practically guarantees future downtime. We have to start managing the interset as one massive composite setup. Because our interset is currently broken, we waste an incredible amount of time and money treating relative symptoms rather than hunting down the absolute variances. So an absolute variance is the root cause, like a mechanical misalignment on a machine. When we don't fix the absolute variance, it generates dozens of relative variances downstream, like feed jams and scrapped parts. If we're out there treating the feed jam without ever realigning the machine, we're just creating an illusion of improvement. So what is the antidote? What am I bringing to you today? It's a quantified methodology called TMQ. Target, meet, qualify. It's a logic-driven framework where we specifically target the absolute constraint. We meet it head-on using interventions from our existing subject matter experts right there on the floor. And most importantly, we qualify the fix with real, time-stamped data. We don't just guess that we fixed it, we prove it. TMQ completely transforms productivity from futile guesswork into exponential, certified performance. Let's take this down to the actual floor and build a practical roadmap. We really don't need expensive new software for this.
Using simple Excel routing sheets and tools we already have, we deploy variance elimination machine, or VM triggers. Here's how it flows in real life. A VM tainer, which is just a physical trigger bin, gets flagged on the floor. Instantly, a specialized SWAT team of your existing experts is assigned. The root absolute variance is targeted and fixed via a specific VM work order. And finally, the setup is recertified. We detect, attack, and certify fixes in real time, completely unified across all the 5 M's. Now, timing is absolutely everything here. We do not wait for the end of an 8-hour shift to look at some report and find out we failed all day. That just guarantees 6.5 hours of pure waste. Instead, we implement a strict 2-hour trigger cycle across our existing lines. Every 2 hours, VM tainers drop, routing sheets are updated, and setups are checked. This tight loop is what allows us to reset variances and catch deviations before they can infect the rest of the facility. To actually qualify our success, we use a 3D variance profile. Again, we aren't just relying on gut feelings here. We look at the baseline X-bar control data to understand our historical averages, we generate a theoretical plan of what the fix should achieve, and then we measure the actual post-reset output. This completely proves that our theoretical plans actually translate to real, elevated output rather than just assumed fixes. If the actual output doesn't meet the theoretical plan, the work order stays open, period.
Culturally, this requires a massive shift for us. We have got to stop rewarding mere production volume and instead establish setup integrity as our ultimate metric. Let me be totally blunt. Pushing a good product through a bad setup is a dangerous illusion. If your volume is high but your setup is uncertified and degrading, you are just borrowing from tomorrow's disasters. Production volume should only be counted after verified setup certification across the entire interset.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for everyone sitting in this room today. The system was the solution all along. The only choice left for this leadership team is whether you'll continue spreading the stress, tolerating bust work, and fighting isolated fires, or will you finally flip the switch on the quantum reset today? Will you commit to targeting, meeting, and qualifying a system that actually supports your people? Because if 94% of the problem really is the system, are you truly ready to commit to 94% of the solution? The choice is entirely yours.